Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. First war ever. In 2014, a new analysis was done on a set of human remains that date back 13,000 years. They were discovered on the bank of the Nile River in northern Sudan in the middle of the desert. The new analysis shows that these people were victims of extremely violent deaths. Researchers believe they may have participated in the very first war between Homo sapiens and Africa. These human remains are direct evidence of the oldest known armed conflict. The ancient bones were first discovered in 1964 by the American archaeologist Fred Wendorf, uncovered at a prehistoric cemetery in Jebel Sahaba. This is the oldest burial ground ever discovered in the Nile Valley. There were 61 sets of remains found there, all of them shipped to the British Museum for study. The most recent analysis of the bones has shown arrow impact marks and scrapes on the bones from where they had been hit with arrowheads. Many of the people appear to have been killed by enemy archers. 45% of those in the cemetery died from major violence. 2 of the men were even buried in a shallow grave with the remains of the weapons that killed them, decayed to nothing more but scraps of flint. Analysis has shown that the victims were part of a general sub-Saharan population. These are the ancestors of modern-day Africans. The remains were found nearby of another group of a different population, more closely related to a mixture of North Africans and Europeans. When all of this information is put together, it shows the very first war was fought between 2 different groups of human beings. Number 9. Chunk of Protoplanet. In the spring of 2020, an unbelievable relic was pulled out of a remote region of the Sahara Desert. The artifact is a very rare piece of an embryonic planet that existed before Earth was ever born. An embryonic planet is an ancient protoplanet that was the building block for a larger planet around the beginning of the time our solar system was formed. This is where things get complicated. The artifact is known as EC002, a meteorite that was forged inside the crust of a small celestial body a very long time ago. It's the oldest known piece of foreign space rock that's ever been found on Earth. Professor of geochemistry Jean-Alix Barat and his team were able to date the rock at 4.566 billion years old. The Earth itself didn't even form for several million years after this rock was created. It was part of a protoplanet that was absorbed into a larger celestial body that then became a planet or was blasted into pieces by a collision out in space. How the ancient piece of protoplanet came to be lying on the surface of the Sahara Desert is something scientists still don't know. Nobody has any idea how long it's been on our planet or if it's been floating around in space for almost 5 billion years and just recently landed here. Number 8. Mysterious stone structures. In Western Sahara, hundreds of mysterious stone structures were recently discovered. These stone structures date back thousands of years in a part of the desert that's rarely visited by archaeologists. These structures come in all shapes and sizes, and professionals aren't exactly sure what they were used for or when they were created. For 7 years, archaeologists surveyed the landscape in this part of the Western Sahara, using satellite images and physical excavations to make sense of these mysterious things. At this point, they are completely in ruins. There are no giant walls or crumbling houses. These are the remnants of structures, nothing but flat piles of rock showing the outlines of what had once stood here in the desert. Some of them are shaped like crescents, others in almost perfect circles, and others nothing but long lines of rocks that look like they may have once been a border wall. Some are just giant piles of rocks with no visible shape at all. The best guess archaeologists have right now is that these structures were used to mark the locations of graves. They've only managed to actually excavate 2 of the sites, and they found human remains dating back about 1,500 years. This seems to be direct evidence that there had once been a thriving civilization in what is now a wasteland of rock and sand. The only things remaining of this civilization are what appear to be complicated tombstones, with who knows how many bodies lost underneath the surface. And now for number 7, but first it's shout-out time! Big thank you to Sylvia the screenwriter and Kylie Skedgewell for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to join the Origins Explained family. Number 7. The Giant Crocodile. Paleontologists have discovered the remains of an absolutely terrifying monster buried under the sand of the Sahara. They made the discovery in Tunisia, uncovering an ancient beast that was the size of a bus. The The creature they found was once the largest sea-dwelling crocodile to ever patrol the oceans that scientists have ever found. This creature would have been about 30 feet long, weighing over 3 tons. Just the skull of this ancient croc is 5 feet long, which is roughly the size of an average Florida alligator. Just its head is the size of an alligator today. Researchers have named the new species Machilosaurus rex, and it went extinct about 150 million years ago at the end of the Jurassic period. The lead author of the study, Federico Fanti from the University of Bologna, described the creature as massive. The fossils of the sea monster were found by Fanti and his team with help from the National Geographic Society Committee for Research and Exploration. The team dug out the bones of a few inches of sediment at the edge of the Sahara. Its skull was so big, it took the paleontologists 2 days to remove it from the sand. Then they had to go through the long process of removing the entire body. From what they can tell, this particular chunk of the barren desert was once a lagoon connected to the ocean. Researchers also found the fossils of ancient fish and turtles, showing a marsh habitat rich in biodiversity. It's hard to imagine such a thing considering the shape of the desert today, but millions of years ago, this place was part of a hot, swampy jungle. Number 6. Ancient Alien UFO. A UFO has apparently been discovered buried in the desert of Algeria, at least according to Google Earth user Scott Waring. Waring is a well-known conspiracy theorist and often finds mysterious things. He said he found the supposed UFO at the edge of the Sahara as a star-shaped formation. It's a kind of anomaly in the desert that appears to have 5 points, looks an awful lot like a spaceship, and is currently buried under a mountain of sand. From the satellite images, it looks an awful lot like some kind of artificial object. Scott believes it's been buried under the sand for thousands of years, but according to Google Earth, the object is named H666 and is identified as a normal geological formation near the town of El Asel. If you look closely at the images, you can see what almost looks like tunnels leading underneath it. Some have suggested it could be the site of some kind of ancient underground city, secret alien base, a crashed ship that's been covered up by an unknown organization. The possibilities are endless. Or really, it could just all be a coincidence, and the UFO could be nothing but a big rock. What do you think it is? Let me know in the comments. Number 5. A growing desert. The Sahara is the biggest scorching desert on the planet, and according to scientists, it's actually getting bigger. In a new study, researchers looked at rainfall data gathered from all across Africa. They compared the results to climate records dating back to 1920 to see how the desert has changed. They especially looked at the borders of the desert and how different conditions affected specific regions. What they discovered is that compared to a century ago, the Sahara is 10% bigger. The question isn't what's hidden beneath the Sahara. The real question is what will be buried under the Sahara in the future, because by the looks of it, a lot of Africa could one day be buried. Here's a fun fact. The scientific definition of a desert is a place that receives less than 10 inches of rainfall per year, and according to the U.S. Geological Survey, it must have a surface area of at least 3.6 million square miles. By definition, the Sahara is actually only the 3rd biggest desert in the world, next to the frozen deserts in Antarctica and the Arctic. Number 4. Ancient mystery structures. There is something very large and very mysterious hidden underneath the sand of the Sahara. This mysterious object has been revealed through satellite images, and unlike a lot of these strange things found in the middle of nowhere, it can be seen up close on the ground. From above, it looks like a gigantic eroded pyramid, and from the ground, physically standing in front of it, it looks like it really could have once been a pyramid. Mainstream scientists won't even touch this subject, and that's because there is no actual evidence that Pyramid Mountain, as it's been labeled, is anything but a mountain of rock. The suspected pyramid can be found near the Bahariya Oasis in Egypt's western desert, which is a part of the Sahara. It is taller than the Great Pyramid, and yet it's almost definitely much older. It's so eroded that it would have taken thousands upon thousands of years to dissolve in such a way. Another interesting fact about this pyramid-shaped lump of dirt is that there is a very distinct waterline about 50 feet up. Some suggest this waterline is the mark left behind by the Great Flood from the Bible. We can't say for sure whether this mysterious structure is the remnant of a pyramid one made by an even older civilization than ancient Egypt. But if it turns out to be true, it will change how scientists view and research the history of Egypt and the pyramids. Number 3. The Lords of the Sahara. The ancient Tuaregs have been living in the Sahara Desert for thousands of years. The word Tuareg supposedly has its origins in the Arabic language and can be translated roughly to abandoned by the gods. These ancient desert dwellers saw themselves as a forsaken people, left to fend for themselves in the harsh wasteland of North Africa. But these lords of the Sahara are far from lost, as they are still living in their ancestral lands to this very day. We know that they probably lived in southern Libya in the 5th century based on accounts of the Greek historian Herodotus. And according to the Tuaregs' own folklore, their origins can be traced to a legendary queen named Tin Hinan, who lived in the 3rd or 4th century AD. When the 7th century came around, the Tuaregs began migrating southwest, and after 400 years, they arrived in Niger. There, they allegedly founded the ancient stone city of Timbuktu and forced the indigenous tribes southward. In the 14th century, the Tuaregs were converted to Islam, and from their new territory in the south of the Sahara, they became rich by trading gold, salt, and slaves. The 19th century saw the destruction of these people at the hands of the French, and in 1963, they helped in the formation of the country of Mali, and today they are still fighting for their independence. But behind them, all throughout the desert, experts believe traces of their civilization over thousands of years are hiding under the sand, ancient cities and structures that have never been found. Number 2. The Cave of Swimmers. The Cave of Swimmers can be found in the Libyan desert in the mountainous region of the Gilf Kabir Plateau. The cave is fascinating because in 1933, the Hungarian explorer Laszlo Almasi uncovered rock art that has never been explained. Within the cave are Neolithic pictographs and paintings on the rock of people who appear to be swimming. These people have their limbs outstretched as if paddling through the water. The swimmers are accompanied by pictures of giraffes and hippopotamuses, and this is all quite odd considering the location of the cave, about as far away from water as you can get. It's literally in the middle of the desert, far from any swimming holes. The mystery gets even stranger. Researchers believe the paintings date back 10,000 years. It appears to be proof that not that long ago, much of the desert was actually filled with water. These paintings clearly show people swimming, so there must have been a lake or a river nearby. And yet all traces of this watering hole are gone today, along with the mysterious people who left these paintings behind. Number 1. The Lake Under the Sand. Scientists have recently discovered evidence of an enormous prehistoric lake hiding beneath the sand. This mega lake was formed about 250,000 years ago, back when the Nile River flooded the entire eastern Sahara. This major flood created a lake that covered about 42,000 square miles. It reached about 810 feet above sea level and was accompanied by a slightly smaller lake of 18,600 square miles. All across what is today the Western Desert in Egypt was essentially a Great Lake. Evidence of this mysterious body of water was found by geologist Ted Maxwell and his colleagues at the National Air and Space Museum. They were looking through radar data of Egypt taken from space when they made the discovery. The radar images were able to pierce the dry desert to look beneath the subsurface. There, they found buried channels about 50 feet deep. To put it as simply as possible, the images worked like X-rays, showing the huge channels and empty basins that are now completely filled with sand. If you were to scoop all the sand out, you would find an empty lake bed. All along the edges of this forgotten lake, researchers have identified Paleolithic human settlements. These were settlements built by the earliest humans tens of thousands of years ago. They made their homes directly on the shore of this lake, but of course, most of the ruins have long since been swallowed by the desert. Thanks for watching! What other mysteries do you think are hiding underneath the Sahara? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!